Have you lost any faith in monogamy thanks to these Coldplay cheaters? Are we finally going to see a breakthrough in these Epstein Files? And just when you thought we are done arresting political opponents, could Obama be indicted? Viva la vida, everyone, wherever you're listening from. My name is Eric, and this is the Five Head Podcast. Welcome, everyone, to week 3 of the Five Head Podcast. If it's your first time listening, please be sure to like and subscribe, help a brother out. And you can find episodes 1 and 2 both on Spotify and YouTube. What a crazy week it's been, am I right? It's just every day, just fire after fire. And then we get this comic relief, this CEO and his HR manager getting caught at the Coldplay concert, having an affair. And it's like we all just needed that, right? With everything else going on. And the funny thing about it is, if they just didn't react, no one would ever know. Like, kiss cams are going on every single day. Some sporting event, some concert, it's always there. If they just, when the camera was on them, smiled and kissed and waved to the crowd, it would have moved on to the next people on the kiss cam. And that's it. We'd have never even heard about it. The only time we ever see a kiss cam is when something like this happens. I mean, can you imagine that? Just here you are, minding your own business, cheating on your wife at a concert, and boom, get called out by Coldplay. And the crazy thing is, when something goes viral like a video, the internet is like undefeated, right? The internet automatically identifies who that is. Like, someone knows who that is. If there is a camera on, you can't get away with anything because someone's going to know who you are. But when all these things happen, especially when it's something funny, there's like these stages of responses, right? First is the hilarity of it. Ha, idiots, and laughing. And it's become a meme now, right? Everyone on kiss cams since that day have mimicked it, made fun of it. Everyone is still posting, making fun of it, using it in different memes. I mean, it's hilarity. Not necessarily for the, wife and kids. And I think she was married too, right? She's married as well. So, not so hilarious for them, but for the rest of us, absolute hilarity. But then when you follow along the progression of these things, the rabbit hole starts getting opened up, and what starts off as something that we all just laugh at, then move to a bunch of posts where blame and argument of blame for some reason came up. Like, a couple of posts went viral where someone was like, this should be a lesson to women, you shouldn't go after a man who's already married. Think about the wife and kids. And then, of course, that leads to, because it's the internet and people will argue over everything, that leads to, well, what about the man? Why don't you say, hey, men, stop cheating on your wife? And the funny thing is, like, both are correct. Like, why are we debating that? Like someone was just saying, don't go after, like, yes, the man shouldn't either. Why can't we just say, why do we have to say anything? They got caught cheating. Everyone knows it's wrong. But then the rabbit hole got even deeper. And this is why I bring up monogamy, because after we all got through the hilarity of it, which will be forever, that's never going away. I feel sorry for his wife, who was like, we just need some privacy as we work through. You're not getting privacy. There's no way. Your husband has become a meme forever. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't go private on it. You should monetize off of it. Start getting active on your social media, start a podcast. You're about to be single and rich, so you're never going to live it down. Might as well make something of it. But we go through the hilarity of it and then into the who's at fault argument. But then we kind of traveled down a deeper rabbit hole here as I was scrolling through the interwebs. And someone brought up the argument that this is the fault of the idea of monogamy, that men are not designed to be monogamous. From a human species standpoint, take religion out of it, take civilized society out of it. Just as a species on this planet, men are not meant to be monogamous. And I'm only entertaining this. I can hear my wife right now, like, wait, where are you going with this, Eric? Are you trying to say men shouldn't be monogamous? And I just want to say, as a disclaimer, for the record, of course I believe in monogamy. I believe the best thing for adults is to have their person and to be in a monogamous relationship and to build a life together. And the best thing for kids is to be raised in a home, and this is statistically actually, is to be raised in a home with their biological mother and their biological father. The next best thing for a child is to be raised in a home with their biological mother and a father figure. right? Because that's what everyone always says when you think about it. Us dads, we're actually replaceable. Like every kid needs their mom and they need a father figure. That father figure could be a stepdad. That father figure could be an uncle, a grandfather, etc. So realistically, us men are just kind of replaceable in that sense. But I believe in monogamy. I believe you take those vows and you should honor those vows. But there are legit arguments to people who say that the male human was not meant to be monogamous. And I don't mean a legitimate argument as in I believe that. I mean a legitimate argument to me is an argument that someone makes that they back up with some sort of rationale and explaining, right? Because if you don't, that's just a claim. You can make any claim you want, but a legitimate argument is one that someone has rationalized and thought about and can explain the reasoning behind having that argument. So whatever. So, but the argument is, men are able to produce children their entire lives, and women are only able to bear so many children in their lives before naturally they're unable to do that anymore. And in order to keep the species going, just like any other species on the planet, you need to be able to continuously reproduce, right? So the argument there is men are not meant to be monogamous where they're limited to 1 or 2 children. Men are meant to live their whole lives spreading their seed and creating as many more humans as possible during their time on Earth until they pass. And that's how you keep the human species going. Again, I don't believe that, but again, we went from something funny like some idiots getting caught cheating at a Coldplay concert down to this is why men should not be monogamous at all, right? And there's this growing sentiment of that, and these stupid influencers that they paint this picture of the alpha male is someone who is focused on earning and providing and spreading their seed across as many women as they can and not giving in to the soy boy, beta idea of society that men have to be married to only one woman. And it's a growing problem if you think about it. I mean, look over the last 50 years, divorce rates are way up, marriage rates are down, and the amount of children that are being born is down. So these influencers discussing things like monogamy really do have an effect. But I believe in monogamy. I believe not only do children need their mother and a father figure in the home, as in the mother nurtures them and teaches them about caring and loving, and the father figure teaches them about responsibility and discipline. But I think an underrated, underappreciated benefit to a child having his biological mother and biological father in the home throughout his or her childhood is that they can have faith in something. They can see that when you make a commitment to something and you honor that commitment and you get through the ups and downs together, that you didn't waste your time making that commitment, that you didn't put your faith into something that turns out to not work out. And it's not just relationships, it's throughout their life, commitments they make into anything. You want them to see that if you stick with it and go through the ups and downs and you remain monogamous to that commitment, whatever it is, that it will work out in the end and you'll be happy. But monogamy's been on the chopping block for a while. And so this incident happened and these kind of alpha bros just started blasting this is why monogamy is stupid. This is why men are not meant to be monogamous. And then to go even further on that, Matt Walsh got involved. And if you don't know who Matt Walsh is, he's a conservative talking head. He's the dude that did that movie, What is a Woman? He's that guy, and he's very religious. And so he kind of took the opposite of that and made that go viral, where he said humans are absolutely meant to be monogamous, and that anything other than finding the one person you're meant to build a life with and raise a family with is blasphemy. But not that it's just blasphemy in a religious sense. He also said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he also said that to be non-monogamous, to be in multiple relationships, to sleep with a bunch of different people is actually barbaric. And it's like some third world communist left-wing plot to bring this kind of barbaric living to the U.S. to ruin the U.S. So it makes me laugh because we went from, holy crap, that dude's cheating, down the rabbit hole to not believing in monogamy is somehow some plot to turn America into a socialist country. It's absolutely insane. My initial reaction to Matt Walsh's post was, well, regardless of whether you think monogamy is unnatural or you think monogamy is the only way to go, in today's society, at least here in the US, you're kind of forced into monogamy. I'm not saying monogamy is a bad thing. Monogamy is a great thing. But when you think about it, when you choose to enter into a monogamous relationship, you're kind of forced to stay in it. Like when you're a young man and you meet a woman and you're falling in love and you're thinking about marriage, you have to take that into consideration. That if you make this commitment and it doesn't go right in some way, you're going to pay for it for the rest of your life, whether there was infidelity or not, really. So what people are arguing is that, like, why jump into a monogamous relationship when if it doesn't work out for any reason, you're going to pay for it your whole life? And what they mean by that is, and what I'm saying is that where men are kind of forced into monogamy is because anytime a relationship doesn't work out, a divorce happens. And before that divorce even gets worked out, it's almost automatically presumed that if kids are involved, mom's going to keep the kids, at least as the main custodial parent. If there's a home involved with kids involved, mom and the kids are going to be able to stay living in the home, and the dad's going to be the one to move out. And where money's involved, the mom gets to keep all the money that she earns, but the dad is going to have to pay some sort of child support or alimony. But when I joke about forced monogamy, I hope I'm articulating this in a way, because I meant it in a funny way, half joking, but it's kind of half true. Or like in my marriage, for example, and I love my wife, right? And I know I tick her off and we fight sometimes, but I love her. But in my marriage, I'm actually obligated to keep her happy. I'm obligated to provide for her. I'm obligated to make sure I'm catering to how she feels and make sure I'm keeping her happy. Because if I don't and she leaves me, I'll have to pay for it for the rest of my life. Whereas when a woman gets married, she's under no obligation to satisfy her man. She's under no obligation to provide for him. She's under no obligation to keep him happy. She's under no obligation to even be nice to him. And if he doesn't like it, he can leave. But guess what? You're going to have to pay to keep this roof over my head that you're leaving from. You're going to have to give me money for child support. And depending on how it works out in court, you may have to give me alimony, maybe 50% of your 401k 30 years from now. So when you talk about monogamy, I don't agree with these alpha bros that say men aren't meant to be monogamous. If you feel that way, if you honestly feel men are not meant to be monogamous, that's fine to feel that way. Then don't get married. Don't choose to take a vow into monogamy and then take your HR rep to a Coldplay concert. I'm just saying men are just kind of forced into it, or forced to remain in monogamy no matter what. And we could probably have a whole other podcast episode just on that, on marriage and the dynamics of it. And obviously if there's a divorce with kids involved, I think naturally most people would say the kids need to be with their mom. But you're the one that moves out. You're the one that's got to rearrange your schedule now to make time to see your kids. Like almost everything for the wife kind of stays the same when you think about that. It's almost a benefit. Like the wife gets some of the man's money. The wife gets the kids. The wife gets the roof that she doesn't have to be the one to move out. She just doesn't have to deal with his shit every day. I mean, one could argue divorce is almost better for the woman. She gets the house, she gets money, she gets a break from the kids because he's going to want visitation rights to come see them. And she gets all of that, which she gets now with him living there. Only she doesn't have to live with him. She doesn't have to smell his poop and she doesn't have to put up with his crap, you know? like if my wife wanted to right now, if she just didn't want to be with me, but she didn't want to lose her lifestyle, right? All she would have to do is just start treating me like shit from the second she wakes up every single day until the second we go to bed. Just treat me like complete shit until I get to a point where I can't take it anymore and I divorce her. And then guess who's at fault? I made a commitment and now I'm ending that commitment. Guess what the courts are going to say? She keeps the house. She keeps the kids. She gets alimony. They get child support. You have to get visitation through her. So figure that out on your own when you want to see your kids. I mean, her life would be exactly the same as it is now, except she wouldn't have to put up with me and my glorious five-head. Right? She wouldn't have to put up with my shit. So women kind of have the better end of the deal today in marriages and in monogamy. And I'm fully recognizing that for centuries, that was not the case. Women have had the shit end of the marriage stick for so long. It's only been in very, 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 very modern history where the script is kind of flipped. Right? When it comes to monogamy, there was a time when if you're a woman and you get married and you cheat on your husband in any way, that you could be killed for that. That was like death penalty stuff in certain societies throughout history. Even just the thought of cheating or looking at a man the wrong way or looking outside your marriage, as they say, finding comfort in a man the wrong way, you could be shamed in the street with a scarlet letter for that. And for men, it never really mattered, right? Men just, I went off to battle, and while I was there, I went to the whorehouse because that's what we do, and that's supposed to be accepted. You know what I mean? Like, the men had the good end of the stick for marriage for a very long time. But now I just feel like the script is flipped to a point where, men are kind of forced into monogamy. Once you make that decision, you're kind of forced and you're stuck there, because if you break that vow to the monogamy, you're the one who's paying for it for the rest of your life. So I feel sorry for the CEO's wife, man. That's embarrassing for her, but she's about to be rich. She gets the house, she gets the kid. She's going to get a part of his 401k. She's going to get probably alimony, and she won't have to put up with his shit every day. You know what I mean? And who knows what happened in the relationship? Maybe it was going bad from the start, and he actively thought about that. I have 3 decisions to make. I can just live unhappily as is, or I can end this relationship and give up half my shit, or I could find happiness outside of the relationship, which still risks half my shit if I get caught, And I guess he chose the third. He chose to try to find a little piece of the cake. He wanted to eat it too. And he got caught in the most hilarious way. So I've been joking mostly and commenting like, well, monogamy is kind of forced. So Matt Walsh, if you say it's blasphemy to be non-monogamous, don't you worry. If you're worried about all the young men falling into this alpha mentality where monogamy is overrated and all this, you don't have to worry about that, because they're kind of forced into it anyway. And if they mess it up, they're going to pay for it their whole life. So they're kind of forced to not mess it up. So there you go. So that's our comic relief for the week. Thank you to the Coldplay cheaters for giving us something to laugh at when there's so much else going on. As for all the discussion into monogamy and stuff, to any young cats out there, don't listen to these wannabe alpha males. The key to life is not spreading your seed to as many people as possible. Find someone to build a life with. Have children. Have many children. Have so many babies. Raise them to be good, monogamous people. But, also realize that once you make that commitment, you're kind of forced to remain monogamous or it'll ruin the rest of your life. And I'm just kind of joking. Half joking. But that's the route to go. Find someone to build a life with. Be a team. When you're raising your kids, show them how a team works and how the commitment to them matters and the commitment to monogamy matters. Moving on, Bombshell is coming out about the Epstein Files. And we talked about this the entire episode 2 of the podcast. So if you missed that, go back and check it out. And I kind of lay out exactly how I feel about the Epstein case and how it's BS that while we get all of these snippets of breaking news and leaks from unnamed sources and all this stuff through the media, what we're not getting is arrests for people who actually committed assault and rape on women and children. The bottom line is that's what matters. And for 6 years now, 2 administrations, 2 different DOJs, we've not seen anyone but Maxwell and Epstein himself be arrested for violating these women, and these women deserve justice. We actually do not know who's on that list and who's not. And when we say list, we don't mean a list of people who had business with him or were friends with him or worked with him or were at parties with him. We mean a list of people that is backed by evidence that those people specifically committed rape. Everything else is just entertainment and clickbait and leads to nothing but speculation. And like clockwork, we've got a little bit more of that came out this week. So the Wall Street Journal came out with an article, and in this article, they claim they read a copy of a letter written in like one of those kind of like guest books where everyone signs when they go to a birthday party or wedding. So apparently Trump signed this, and according to the Wall Street Journal, again, there's no evidence. DOJ hasn't backed this. Just for some reason now, after 6 years, someone at the FBI or somewhere decided to leak this to the Wall Street Journal. Does that even make any sense? You know the story. Stick figure of a woman with boobs and some third person conversation between Trump and Epstein that I guess Trump wrote out. Again, allegedly, according to nothing but the media. There's no evidence backing this. Talking about the secret of life. What is it? Well, we know the secret, and I hope that secret carries on for you tomorrow or some stupid crap like that. And of course, like every other snippet of information, of hearsay, of unnamed sources closest to the matter leaked only to the media, everyone who hates Trump automatically says that that right there will hold up in court evidence that Trump raped these women. And again, it's all just more to feed into your own speculation. No matter who you are, no matter what side of the aisle you are on, you are convinced that this list, with evidence to back it, is comprised of all of the politicians on the other side, all the ones that you hate the most, and it will prove that they raped women. And if you believe Trump raped these girls, then somehow this letter in a book that we don't even know is real is the bombshell you need to say, yep, that is pure evidence that he raped these girls. And I'm not saying he didn't. I'm saying the DOJ for 6 years now is saying he didn't, or he'd have been arrested by now. I'm saying the DOJ is making the claim that the only people who molested these women are Epstein and Maxwell themselves, proven by the only people who have been arrested and put in jail for raping these women and trafficking these women is Epstein and Maxwell herself. Otherwise, it's all speculation. And we're too far deep into this thing now that any information that comes out, anyone's going to believe differently. But what this could lead to is a breakthrough in this case, because Trump has filed a lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for defamation. Now, if this goes to court, and we should all hope it does, it'll go through a discovery phase. And the best part about a discovery phase is you get discovery on anything that the plaintiff or the defendant wants to argue in the case. So this could be the first time that certain files get presented in court. And when those files get presented in court, it's going to open up evidence to other things that are in the files. And this simple lawsuit could be the thing, if it goes to court, that finally opens the door to any evidence the DOJ has that anyone other than Maxwell and Epstein themselves were violating these women. Now, many claim it's not going to go to court. Trump's going to back out of that, or the Wall Street Journal will settle, which would be telling as well. If I sued you for raping someone and you settled out of court instead of going to court to defend yourself, wouldn't others say that you must be guilty? If you're not willing to go prove you're innocent and you're willing to take a deal, then you must be guilty. Doesn't mean you are, but that's how it comes off. If the Wall Street Journal is claiming this exists and they're not willing to go to court to prove that it's not defamation, that it's true, wouldn't that leave us to believe that they're admitting that the information that they put out about that letter or whatever it is was not actually verified? That maybe the source is not reliable? Because it makes no sense. I know people that hate Trump are like, of course it makes sense. Trump would write that. But this hasn't come out in the last 6 years. This hasn't, I mean, the timing, just like every other piece of information we've ever gotten on Epstein, was media speculation. Every few months when it's being talked about, all of a sudden new evidence comes out somehow. It's all BS in my opinion. But that doesn't mean Trump didn't sexually assault women through Epstein. He 100% could have. There just needs to be evidence to show that. The MAGA crowd just won't believe it. And like I've said in the previous podcast, I don't think anyone's going to be able to have their mind changed about what's going on with Epstein or what went on with Epstein. And it's the media's fault because they put out nothing but little snippets of information that are unverified, not backed by any evidence, that has allowed people to speculate anything they want because there's nothing proven that their speculation is wrong. But this Wall Street Journal lawsuit, if it goes to court, and I hope it does, and I'm almost sure it's not going to, but if it does, this could open up discovery and just blow the whole ceiling of the files wide open. And I wish it didn't have to come to this because we don't need to see any files. Over the last 6 years, we should have seen arrests and we would have known who was raping these women because they'd be in jail right now, or they'd have had their name cleared in court. But eventually, everything they do have on Epstein, even if it's not evidence of actual rape against anyone, is going to come out, and all it's going to do is reaffirm everyone's speculation. And then people are going to be wondering why. The name of this politician I hate happens to be in the file somewhere. Why aren't they being arrested? The justice system is cooked. Well, no, the reality is they're only going to be arrested for raping women if it can be proven that they raped women. So then it's left open to public opinion. And no one's mind is going to change. We also have, over this last week now, women have come forward and claimed that they are victims. So one woman said she was in Epstein's office for a job interview, but it was like 9 o'clock at night. And while she was in his office with him, Donald Trump was invited in, and essentially was invited in to go meet up with one of the girls that Epstein trafficked, and it happened to be in his office. So now it's shifting now to not just St. James, because Trump wasn't on the flight logs of St. James. So now stories are starting to come out that this happened everywhere. And I think a lot of people believe that it happened everywhere anyway. But now we have women who were either victims or they witnessed this stuff coming forward, so they say, and making these claims. And the reason why they're able to come forward and make these claims is because the DOJ hasn't released any actual evidence. The DOJ hasn't made any arrests based on actual evidence. So anyone can come make any claim that they want, and there's no way to refute it. This woman that was on CNN talking about she was there for an interview and saw them usher Donald Trump in to go meet one of these women that Epstein was trafficking. Wasn't to meet her, but she saw like the whole process unfold, or one of Epstein's clients, who happens to be Donald Trump, was coming in to have sexual relations with one of the women that he trafficked that happened to be also there at his office. There's no way to refute that claim because the DOJ won't release anything. The DOJ won't make arrests and then come out and say, that was it. The people that we arrested now are the only ones that have raped anyone. So there's nothing to prove that claim wrong. And this is going to continue. And all it's going to do is reaffirm people's speculation as these claims come out about the politicians they don't like, or the elite in our society that they don't like, if it happens to be movie stars and all of that stuff. And it's useless. Because unless you can arrest someone and put them in jail for it, it does nothing. These claims, just like I said, reaffirm the dislike for someone and cause divide amongst people. Like, how can you vote for this politician? How can you follow this movie star when someone came on TV and said this happened? And this is for 6 years now. These women have not gotten justice. What's also being floated around about the Epstein Files is now Congress wants to get involved. You see, Congress is smart. People of Congress are smart. When shit starts to hit the fan, they start picking a side. Why? Because 2026 is coming up. So you've got to tread carefully for a few weeks. You got to see what the vibe is. And then you got to start picking a side. Donald Trump's not going to be president in 2029, right? So for Democrats, it's easy. We are the not Donald Trump. That's what we're running on, everything but Donald Trump. But for the Republicans, it's hard. What's the vibe out there? Are people happy with Trump? If so, when they run for president or they run for midterms, they're going to run as MAGA. If the vibe is his approval ratings are way down and people are starting to turn on him, even in his own support group, they're going to start running as anti-Trump. And that's the only thing that really matters about Trump's approval ratings. It doesn't matter to Trump. He's not going to be president in 2029. So now you've got Congress jumping on board because they know DOJ, through 2 administrations now, have sat on all this evidence. So they know, just like everyone else can speculate and no one can prove them wrong, they can speculate and no one can prove them wrong. And now they can start playing these games too, to show the American people, or pretend to the American people, that they care about these files being released and they care about justice for these women. So now you have Republicans and Democrats in Congress saying they're ready to release the files, number one. Thomas Massie is saying he's ready to release part 2 of the files. And he held up a binder and took a picture just like those cringe social media influencers did. And it's like, here we go again. Why don't you just release what you have? Why would you hold up and take a picture? It's just, everything is just clickbait. Like, why can't we just get to the bottom of this already? But now another idea is coming, bipartisanly in Congress, of bringing in Ghislaine Maxwell to testify. Here's why this is a terrible idea. Democrats are complaining about this, Republicans are complaining about this, and it's legit. Number one, if Trump offers Ghislaine Maxwell a pardon to spill all the beans, no one who dislikes Trump is going to believe anything she says if it doesn't implicate Trump as a rapist. They're going to say part of her deal for the pardon was she was going to not mention Trump's name. So no one's going to believe what she said. Also, in fairness, when you take someone who is a criminal for the crime that you're questioning them about, and you're refusing to release files, and you're refusing to arrest people backed with evidence, then the person you're interviewing, Ghislaine in this case, can say whatever she wants and there's no way to refute it. She can sit down for a TV interview and just start listing names whatever your name is listening to this podcast, she could say you were on St. James raping these women, and there's no way to refute it. There's no evidence to prove it's true, but there's also no evidence to prove it's not true, which means doing this would cause nothing but more chaos. Again, it would reaffirm people's speculation and belief that the politicians they don't like are raping women if she says one of those politicians' names, and that'll be all the proof you need. No actual evidence, nothing. That'll be all the proof you need to affirm your own belief. So I don't think getting testimony from Ghislaine Maxwell is worth it. Unless you're going to call her into Congress with the DOJ, and you have to do it in a classified space, fine. Behind closed doors, not publicly, fine. And you question her, and every answer she gives, DOJ checks all the evidence they have to make sure her answer matches what's in the evidence. And if it's not matching what's in the evidence, then it's not used as official testimony. Because otherwise she can literally say anything she wants. And what's to stop her from it? And Trump should not pardon her, because if he pardoned her, even if she told the truth about everything, if she doesn't implicate him, no one's going to believe it wasn't a setup. Everyone's going to believe she only got offered the pardon to protect him. So, round and round we go with the Epstein Files, right? The only way we're going to get to the bottom of this is if DOJ just comes out clean. And I honestly believe they won't come out clean, because there are a lot of people, not just Trump, there are a lot of people implicated. And they may not have full evidence to back it up, which makes it even worse, because it means the evidence they do have, or the list of names they do have, could be true, could not be true. And you could ruin people's lives if you name them, and it turns out they never raped any women. Then again, you could miss out on getting justice for women if you name the people on the list, but you don't have enough evidence to put them behind bars, and they continue to go free. So this saga is going to continue for a while. I'm sure we'll talk about it more and more in the podcast. But the closest thing we're going to have to seeing any actual evidence is if Trump's lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal makes it to court and we go through discovery. Also, one last thing on this Epstein thing. I don't understand. People are claiming Biden couldn't release the stuff because the judge sealed it till 2024. Number one, if it was sealed until 2024, Biden was still president in 2024. So evidence could have been used to at least make arrests. Who cares about releasing information? At least make arrests of people who were raping women. But if a judge kept this sealed, I think we need to ask why. Why would a federal judge seal evidence for a multi-criminal case for years? Because all that does is mean people who committed these crimes are scot-free, because the evidence can't be used against them because they're sealed by a court. So why would a judge do that? Why would a judge block women from getting the justice they deserve from being raped by these men? I mean, part of me is like, I'm no conspiracy theorist, but like, was the judge who sealed it, was he in frickin' St. James? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. Yes, you want to redact the victims' names, especially if they were minors at the time, sure. But if there's evidence that this judge has sealed that implicates other people of committing sexual assault in these crimes, that needed to be unsealed long before, so the Department of Justice can put those people behind bars. So that makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't even know if I believe that a judge actually sealed it. And if they did, then we need to look at the judge. Why would you do that? People just kind of let that go. And I think that needs to be looked into more. Crazy, crazy week with Epstein, and it's only going to get worse. Stay tuned. It's been a lot of fun. Now, not only has the Epstein debacle been a lot of fun, and the Coldplay cheater scandal has been absolutely hilarious, but now we have a new wrinkle to add to all this fun. Just when you thought we were done with the Department of Justice going after political rivals, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard comes out with a report essentially trying to claim that President Obama committed treason. And this is a crazy accusation to make. It's also being twisted in a bunch of different directions, so we got to kind of make sense of it. But it's also just more bluster and clickbait. I don't understand, just like the Epstein Files, publicly posting information. I guess I'm not articulating that correctly. It's, what is the point of doing that other than to cause a bunch of spin and narrative before getting to the actual facts? So she puts this out, and immediately people who hate Obama are like, yep, this is it. His whole administration is going down. He's going to jail. He's committed treason. And people who love Obama says this is a nothing burger. It is known that Russia meddled in the election. It's not treason for him because Russia meddled. There was a whole investigation on it. His administration even came out and said no votes were changed, etc. But technically, that's not what Tulsi Gabbard is alleging. No one is denying the fact that Russia meddled in the election. No one has ever denied the fact that Russia meddled in the election. This is where the disconnect is, because a lot of times in these arguments between the left and right, they're arguing two different things. No one has said Russia doesn't meddle. The argument from the Trump supporting side is Democrats claimed that Trump used a foreign government to rig the election. And there is a massive difference between Russia meddling in their adversaries' elections and a U.S. presidential candidate actively working with a foreign government, in this case Russia, to rig the election. Quote, quote, collusion. Those are two wildly different claims. So what Tulsi Gabbard is alleging now, when you read the report that she put out, was not that Obama's administration made up that Russia was meddling. Everyone agrees Russia was meddling. It was Obama's administration, her claim, not mine, that portrayed Russia's meddling as Trump working with Russia to rig the election, which again is two different things. Now, we were all there in 2016. Trump wins the election. Almost immediately it comes out Russia meddled and Trump helped them. So it was portrayed that not only did Russia meddle in our election, but Trump helped Russia. And then the claim was, of course, to help himself win the election. But that was a claim, just like all these Epstein claims, that was mostly by the media. And there's a book put out after every election that kind of goes over the entire election season, the candidates, the winning campaign, the losing campaign. I think this was called Shatter when it came out in 2017. And there's a place in the book where it talks about the Hillary campaign a day after the election, got together. And it says in this book that the campaign worked to engineer the Russia collusion story in order to take the heat off of her losing, right? To come up with, why did I lose? It had to be Russia collusion. So it was like in the book that comes out every time a new president is elected, saying that they had to engineer this story. So it's not that Russia meddled, it's just that tying Trump to Russia's meddling. And of course, Trump didn't help himself and made it easy to tie to because one of his campaign managers had some dealings with Russia during the campaign. Stupid. Doesn't mean that they were trying to rig the election, but when you get accused of that, these things look bad, right? Trump was making comments like, I hope they do find whatever tapes on Hillary Clinton. It was all smack talking for the campaign to rile up the base. But it looks bad once it's found out that Russia is meddling. But Russia has tried to meddle in our election many times. You just didn't hear about it until they tried to tie it to Trump. Like I said, though, it was the media that was really trying to tie it to Trump. I think most Democrats in the Obama administration believed it, but not at the time that all this is happening. There was not a part of me that was like, oh yeah, the Obama administration is totally trying to commit treason here and turn people against Trump. And it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, I don't understand what the treason is. So according to Tulsi Gabbard and the people that have now spun this, because again, she puts out this information and then people run with it, right? So according to the narrative, it's treason because he portrayed Russia's meddling as Trump working with Russia for the meddling to undermine his presidency. What do you mean undermine his presidency? If for some reason the Russia meddling led to Trump's election in 2016 not being certified, and we had the first ever president wins the election and Congress didn't certify him and he was never allowed in office, then I could see you saying, whoa, the Obama administration or Hillary or someone played games to try to block Trump from becoming president, right? But that didn't happen. Trump got sworn in January 2017 and went through his entire presidency. So I'm not understanding where the treason is. And I could be wrong, I'm not seeing it. And this just comes off to me, just like when they were trying to arrest Trump with anything, that it's all political. And it makes sense Tulsi would be mad at Obama because of what wasn't it his administration that got her labeled as a Russian asset or something like that, and now she's the director of national intelligence. But do you get what I'm saying? I'm not saying Obama's never done anything wrong. I'm just saying you have to have evidence to show it. And when you release something that can be spun or is not direct, clear evidence, then it just looks like politics. And we can go on and on about this in itself. I mean, going after political opponents, the cases against Trump and how the people who brought those cases on ran on saying they were going to find something. I mean, we could talk an entire episode about all that. But more so than not believing there was treason there by Obama is a couple of things. One, I understand the media doing this. I don't understand our official government agencies doing this. Putting out snippets of information that drives speculation, claiming it as fact, and saying, just you wait, we're going to get to the bottom of it. How about you get to the bottom of it and press charges before you tell anyone? If you have enough evidence to indict someone. Why do you release teasers? It's like our entire government has become just like the media. So for people who hate Obama, all their hopes are up now. That's it. Yeah, Obama's going to jail. And people who support Obama are like, this is all just politics. Where is the evidence? Again, you're making the claim without showing us specific criminal evidence. So I don't know why this is done like this. But the bottom line, Obama's not going to jail. He's not going to jail for what he's alleged for by Tulsi Gabbard. He's not going to jail for the death of his chef. He's not going to jail for Americans dying in the bombings that he did overseas while he was president. He's not. In the same way, Trump is not going to jail for classified documents. He's not going to jail for falsifying business records. He's not going to jail for anything on the Epstein Files. He's not. It's all a show. It is just, our government has just become one massive clickbait. That's it. If there's evidence to back these things up, you don't need to put out pressers and statements and saying stay tuned and get everyone all hyped up about it like you're about to premiere the best Hollywood show of all time. Here's a sneak preview. This is the Department of Justice. These are crimes that you're alleging. If a crime is committed and you have the evidence of it, make the arrest. DNI Gabbard, if you have some sort of evidence that Obama committed some sort of treasonous act and it's tied to a U.S. code for treason, recommend it to the DOJ and have them indict. We don't need teasers that just lead to more speculation and get everyone all riled up, because then what's going to happen is if you don't deliver, then you're going to have everyone who supports Obama say, see, she's just a fake and a fraud. And then you're going to have everyone who hates Obama that's calling for your head and calling for you to be fired because you failed at your job. Like, why do this? Now, what will be interesting to see play out is if they try to indict Obama. Usually an indictment happens in the jurisdiction that the crime happened. So most likely for a president, if they are indicted for something that they did during their presidency, the indictment would have to go through DC. And I don't know if you recall this or not, but DC is like 99% Democrat. There's not a group of people in DC collectively that would indict Obama on anything. And I'm not saying he needs to be, I'm just saying it's not going to happen. However, with federal crimes, they can sometimes be tried in almost any state if they can find a way to tie the actions back to that area of jurisdiction. So when it comes to things like campaign fraud, you can pretty much try that in any state because they campaign around the country, etc. So what would be interesting to see is what we saw happen with Trump. If Obama was ever indicted, and again, this is all hypothetical, but if Obama was ever indicted in a deep red area of a red state assigned to a red judge, a judge appointed by a Republican administration, and the case assigned to a prosecutor who is deep red, in an area where the jury pool is deep red, I wonder how the case would go. Because everyone says the courts will handle it, no one is above the law, and when Trump was tried in a deep blue area with a deep blue judge with a deep blue jury pool and a deep blue prosecutor who ran on promising to get Trump with anything. Everyone said that's all on the up and up and legit. Fine, we make that argument. We have to trust what the courts do. But usually we only trust what the courts do when they do what we think they should have done. But that's just me. If Trump's DOJ is going to try to go after Obama for something, it'll be interesting to see what happens if he lands himself in a deep red court and a deep red jury pool. Maybe then the political games will stop when it comes to arresting your political opponents. And then the last thing about this whole Obama debacle is the argument on presidential immunity. Because SCOTUS ruled that presidents do have immunity. So a lot of people who hate Trump and love Obama are saying, well, thank you, Trump. You've already made it, so it doesn't matter if Obama even did it because he's got immunity. And this is what gets frustrating. And I blame the media again. I blame the media. I blame clickbait because that's not what SCOTUS ruled at all. But people don't read the actual SCOTUS decision. People are not going to sit down and open the 20-page SCOTUS decision and read it. And they should, because they fully explained the decision. They explained why they made that decision. The dissents are great too, why they're dissenting, and understanding where it all comes from, what precedent it was based off of, what other cases they're referencing, where in the Constitution they are deriving parts of their answers from. But no one does that. What people do is they hear a SCOTUS decision came out and they rush to the internet and they find what everyone's saying about that SCOTUS case. And as long as it's from a news source, they believe that that's true. So when the presidential immunity case came out, no one wanted to read the decision. All they wanted to listen to was the media saying stuff like, what this means is Trump can assassinate his political rival and not face any charges for it. He could do whatever he wants. He could bomb a U.S. city. That's not what was said at all. It's not what was decided on at all. Presidential immunity, as explained in the decision by the Supreme Court, applies to anything a president does that's within his or her official duties as the president. And we can all agree, assassinating your political rival is not part of your official duties. We can all agree that treason is not part of your official duties. And I'm saying treason because the people who don't like Obama are claiming treason from this snippet of information that Tulsi Gabbard put out. So no, presidential immunity wouldn't apply if it's treason. But what would apply is the argument of whether or not the action that was taken by the president was part of the official duties. And some have argued that already. Looking into intelligence reports of Russia meddling and advising his administration on what he found, and even advising the public on what was found, would be considered part of his presidential duties. That's what the supporters of President Obama are saying. People who don't support President Obama are saying, yes, but that's not what he did. So that's where the argument's going to lie. There is no blanket immunity for presidents. Presidents can't do whatever they want. However, presidents sometimes do have to make decisions that if you or I made outside of the White House, outside of that official duty, could be considered a crime. For example, a president can call airstrikes on something and bomb in a foreign country. You and I can't launch a rocket from our house and bomb a foreign country. We can go to jail for that. That's just one example, and a terrible example. I know. I'm just saying there are things that a president and his administration, his or her administration, might have to do, or a call they have to make sometimes, that if we did it, we could land in jail for it. That's where presidential immunity lies. And I want to make this clear. I am not defending Obama, but I'm also not bashing Obama. I'm not defending Trump, but I'm also not bashing Trump. I'm not defending Tulsi Gabbard. I'm also not bashing Tulsi Gabbard. I'm just tired of this clickbait that we live in. This is the federal government. This is our Department of Justice. This is our national intelligence. And it's just turned into one big piece of clickbait, and it just needs to stop. All it does is lead to speculation, and it causes divide. That's the media's job to do that, not our federal government. And it causes this divide because when we're left with nothing but to come up with our own speculation, people come up with different things, and they convince themselves of these different things. And when someone else speculates and comes up with something different, and they talk about it, they end up going at each other's throats for it. And none of that would have to happen if things didn't come out until there was evidence for it. So I don't say this in defense of the left. I don't say this in defense of the right. It's just we need to clean this up. This is just ridiculous. Let the media be the clickbait, not our federal institutions. So we'll see what happens with Obama. I'm telling you, I don't see anything happening with it. Information was put out to cause a stir. A stir was caused, and it's going to go away. Some are saying this is to distract from the Epstein Files. Some are saying this is to go after Obama. And some are saying, no, this is justice deserved. No one is above the law. Either way, I don't see it going anywhere. There's been a lot of these no one is above the law, even arrests and charges lately in the last couple of years that have just kind of died off. Have you noticed that? Just kind of gone away, swept under the rug, and it's going to happen again here. What's not going to go away is the Epstein Files. That's going to last a while, because now we're in the second administration, and for the first time in 6 years, both of our political parties are calling for more on the Epstein Files. So that's not going to go away. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with all of that. What else is not going to go away is the couple that were cheating at the Coldplay concert. They are forever a meme. You made it, bro. You are famous. So keep that in mind when you're out there cheating. Kiss cam hits you, just go along with it. Worst case scenario, your spouse, your husband, your wife, or whatever ends up seeing it, but at least it doesn't become public. Unless you want to become a meme for the rest of your life. Anyways, everyone, that is it for this episode of the Five Head Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you have ideas, if you have questions, comments, concerns, if you want to debate anything I said, send it to me. I'm eric.middleviewmedia@gmail.com. That's eric.middleviewmedia@gmail.com. Have a good week. Let's see what other bombshells will drop this week, and I'll talk to you all again next week. Five Head out.